Good afternoon. Welcome to today's Academic Advisor Forum, General Education Sampler, The Science of Discovery, Navigating University Courses for Today's Advisors. My name is Ross Hawkins. I'm the Director of the Academic Advising and Transfer Center, and I'm so happy so many of you have decided to join us today. As a reminder, if you haven't already, please enter your name and your department in the chat feature if you wish to receive Master Advisor credit. I also want to mention that today's Academic Advisor Forum will be recorded and posted on the Mo State Advising YouTube channel within the next 1 to 2 weeks. It will be posted in the Spring 2025 playlist. So if you have others in your areas who are unable to join us today, and you feel this information could be beneficial for them, please let them know about the Mo State Advising YouTube channel, and those individuals can still receive Master Advisor credit by entering a custom submission on the Advisor Certification database when you log in through the Academic Advising and Transfer Center website. A couple quick announcements. First, I wanted to mention the Master Advisor reception next Monday, March 10th at 4 p.m. It will be in the Plaster Student Union Ballroom East. This will be an opportunity for us to recognize our 2025 Excellence in Advising Award winners and celebrate academic advising on campus. So please make plans to join us next Monday at 4 p.m. for the reception. Next Thursday, there will also be an academic advisor forum. So Thursday, March 13th, it will be offered on Zoom as well. And it's Core 42 and You, the Redo. This is a partnership with the Transfer Advising Committee on campus. Each semester, we offer an advisor forum specifically on a transfer topic. And so that advisor forum, again, will be on Thursday, March 13th at noon on Zoom. Again, thank you all for being here. I would now like to introduce Kim Stagner. Kim Stagner is the coordinator for student success initiatives in the Academic Advising and Transfer Center. Kim is celebrating her 23rd anniversary here at the university. She has been part of our university community in academic advising roles for 23 years. Kim works primarily with our Bear Launch program. So those students who go through the supplemental application process, as well as individual review students. Kim also advises our Bear Power student population, works closely with undeclared students, and coordinates several things within the Academic Advising and Transfer Center. Please join me in welcoming Kim.
Well, thank you, Ross. That's such a nice introduction. But I just wanted to say hi to everybody. And first of all, just thank you all for Zooming in today to learn more about general education. As you know, we are going to go over a general education sampler today, specifically the natural world area. So oftentimes we'll have students come in and ask which class to take from the natural world area. I know sometimes science can be a bit intimidating for some. So this is just going to be a great opportunity to learn from the experts instead of just talking about like going over the course description and so forth. So we will be able to learn more about these classes today, share that information on to the students so that they will be able to select the best class for them. So for our presenters today, we first will have Tina Hopper, Senior Instructor from Biology, and then we will have Dr. Josh Smith, Associate Professor from Biomedical Science, Dr. Tiglet Basara, Associate Professor from Physics, Astronomy, and Material Science, Elena Metzgers, Senior Instructor from Chemistry and Biochemistry, and then finally, Dr. Toby Dogweiler, School Director of School of Earth, Environment, and Sustainability. So we will give them the opportunity to talk about their areas, and then at the end, if we do have time, we will ask for you to ask questions then, okay? So we will first get started with Tina Hopper from Biology.
Thank everybody for coming because as somebody who advises in the biology department, sciences are not the area that I have to look up and understand whenever I'm advising my students for gen ed courses. And it's probably got to be just intimidating for you to advise this area as it would be for the students to have to take our classes. So it is extremely confusing. I looked at a couple of slides that were brought up from the other departments and I was like, oh, I probably should have made a slide because it is that confusing. So luckily for biology, we really only have 3 different courses. And really, most of the students, as I see your departments coming up on the side here, there's really only 1 course that they're going to take. So I guess I'll just go ahead and dive in. So the 3 different courses that we're talking about in the biology department are Bio 100, Bio 101, and then Bio 121. So those are the 3 main lecture portion of the courses that will count toward gen ed. Bio 100 and Bio 121 are going to be more course specific. So Bio 101 is what most students will take. The lab that goes with Bio 101 is Bio 111, Bio 111. So the lab is optional because as gen ed, you only have to take 1 lab. So with Bio 100 and Bio 121, those are both lecture and lab courses combined. So the lab is already in there. And one of the ways that I always kind of have students remember that no matter what the course is that a 3-hour course is generally a lecture course. A 4-hour course will include both the lecture and the lab. So Bio 100 is a 4-hour course that includes both a lecture and a lab. Bio 121 is a 4-hour course that includes both a lecture and a lab. Whereas Bio 101 is a 3-hour course. And then Bio 111 is a 1-hour course. We've tried to name them such so that it says the lab that goes with the lecture with Bio 101 and Bio 111. So again, probably your best default is going to be Bio 101 and Bio 111. I teach the major section of the course right now, which is Bio 121. And I get a lot of non-majors in my course, and that's okay. It counts as gen ed. It's up to them what they want to take. A lot of times the only seat open is at 8 a.m. on Tuesday and Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So they'd rather go ahead and take a little bit more of a challenging course and not have to be there at 8 a.m. And it's going to count toward gen ed just the same as if they took the non-majors course. So I liked when we got an email about, which you probably just need to cut me off at 7 minutes. The stuff that Kimberly shared with me that she wanted me to share with you. And I thought this is a great list of things that you all would need to know. And so one of the things was, when is the course offered? When are these courses offered? So all of these 3 courses are offered in the spring and the fall. And then our non-majors 101/111 is offered in the summer. And then 121 is also offered in the summer. All 3 of these courses during the spring and the fall are only offered seated, but in the summer, they are only offered online. So if you have a student that wants to take a biology course online, they're going to have to wait until the summer. I'm sorry, I should go back for a second. The lab is only, for the non-majors, is only offered in the summer. Bio 101 does have both a full semester online lecture and a second block 101 lecture that's offered online. But if they want to take the lab for the non-majors online, it's only in the summer. And all lecture and lab for 121 is offered online in the summer. Okay, let's see. So as a gen ed courses, one of the best things that we are trying to get students to learn from these courses beyond content is going to be scientific literacy. So that's going to be a kind of a theme throughout the course from the biology standpoint through all 3 of those courses. But as far as course content goes, I just thought I'd kind of show you biology textbooks for majors and non-majors. So I'll just put these up side by side. The fat one is our majors, the thin one is our non-majors. However, The majors course textbook covers 2 semesters. Because of Streamline, you're only paying for it 1 semester. It's not like there's extra fees or anything like that. So really, if you take half of the big one and this little one, you're looking at just about the same amount of information. But it's like, what do we focus on? So this little book covers the same topics as this big book. It's just the depth at which we cover it. So for non-majors, it's anything from cells to cell division to genetics to diversity to ecology and anatomy and physiology. That's all in 1 semester. Of course, whoever teaches the course is going to choose, whatever their area of specialty is, they'll spend more time on. But as of right now, our Gen Bio 101 course doesn't have like a themes or a topics or anything like that. It's just going to be just the surface, very not in depth of all of those topics. Of course, we try to apply those as much as we possibly can. For the Bio 121, which would be our Gen Ed for first semester biology majors, it's mostly based on cell biology. So like the chemistry that you need in order to understand biology, like as far as like cellular interactions go, photosynthesis, cellular respiration, genetics, gene expression, and then evolution. So those are the topics that are covered. When it comes to a science class, in lecture, you have content, you've got lectures, and then you have an exam. Most of the teachers will have some homework assignments to help practice that information. If it's an online course, there'll be some sort of like discussion board or something like that to help students interact with each other. But that's about what a lecture course requires from a student. Now the lab, I did want to mention that a lot of times students don't realize that lab requires attendance. And so if they want to just turn in all of the homework assignments, that's not necessarily going to be able to cut it to be able to make it through any of these courses. Okay, I need to go back to Bio 100. If there's any chance, I didn't see any come up in the chat. Bio 100 is for our like younger elementary education majors. So like high school ed, it doesn't count. You need your biology majors course for that. So Bio 101, Bio 100 would be anything from like early childhood, elementary ed, middle school education, maybe some special ed majors, family and computer science or consumer science, child and family development, things like that. If a student has that major and Bio 100 will just not fit in their schedule, there's a chance that they could get an override maybe from their department or something like that to take the 101/111 series. But usually the 100 is what they would take for that. So let's see. What other, well, I guess questions we'll do at the end. So I feel like I've done my 7 minutes. So that's the difference between the 3 options for bio, which would be Bio 100, that's lecture and lab, 4 credit hours. Bio 101/111, that's the lecture and the lab that go together, that don't have to be taken together. And then Bio 121, which is considered our majors level course, and it is both a lecture and a lab together and 4 total credit hours.
All right, well, thank you so much for sharing. Next, we'll go ahead and listen to Dr. Josh Smith in biomedical science.
Hi, yes, so in biomedical sciences, we have a total of 4 courses, 2 lecture, 2 lab. To take the labs, you have to be co-enrolled or have had the corresponding lecture. We have BMS 100, which is the lecture, and that it's a 3 credit course with the BMS 101 laboratory. So they're called Essentials in Human Biology. So these courses, just like the ones in biology, they're part of Core 42. So they're guaranteed transferable between the Missouri institutions. Different course code numbers. BMS are in the life sciences designation of the Core 42. But we have the essentials is geared more towards the student that is not going to probably go on and take another life sciences course. Whereas the BMS 110 we call it the Introduction to Human Biology. Again, that's what they call it in the state Core 42. So we've combined the names are the same as what Core 42 calls them. And that one is more for students that are going to maybe even think about taking another course in the life sciences, whether it's a BMS course. And I'll talk in a little bit about where some of these courses you can get into some other life science bio courses even. So BMS 100, looking at offerings, BMS 100 is offered in the fall, spring, and summer. We are going to be doing it in modality traditionally in the fall and spring and online in summer. Just as Tina was saying, we do have sometimes people think that they don't have to always attend or participate. And so we found that for the 100s, the online seems to do well in the summer, but it doesn't seem to do as well with participation and turning in things in the fall and spring. So we're going to be offering 100 only in the traditional format, seated in fall and spring, and then online in the summer. The BMS 101, which is the lab component that goes with that students can take if they need to take a lab still for general education. They can take that in either the fall or the spring. We don't offer that in the summer, and that is in the traditional format only. For BMS 110, which is the Introduction to Human Biology, that it is more for people that want to go on to another life sciences course, or maybe even have thoughts of maybe wanting to take another life sciences course. That BMS 110 is offered in fall, spring, and summer. We offer it traditionally in the fall and spring. We have sections that are online also in the spring, as well as the traditional section in the spring. We usually cap our sections at 150, 149, or whatever is a multiple of 24, because 24 fits in the lab. So we try it. Now, we usually fill 2 to 3 sections as traditionally in the fall at 150. And then in the spring, we usually have 1 seated section and 1 online section. And then in the summer, we offer the online section of BMS 110, the lecture online in the summer in the 8-week block. Now for BMS 111, the lab component that goes with the BMS 110, this is usually required to go on. So they need both BMS 110 and 111 to be taken to get on to subsequent courses in the biomedical sciences. And we do offer that in the fall. We have sometimes between 18 and 20 labs. In the spring, we have a little less. There's usually less people taking it. We have anywhere from 7 to 10 labs, all traditional in person. And then we offer also, instead of offering it in the summer, traditionally, we have not found that works good. So we offer it in the spring intersession for the 3-week intersession. In person, it's 2.5 hours, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. For those 3 weeks, they pretty much go through almost, they go through a month's worth of material, have an exam, month's worth of material, have an exam, month's worth of material, and have that final. So it's a faster pace, but the students seem to do pretty well in it. And if they're around here in that spring, right after classes in that spring intersession, students can, sometimes the student might have to retake something to get on to the next class in the fall. And this is a good option for students to take that BMS 111. And then we've been also offering it in the fall intersession for 2 weeks. It's a 2-week fall intersession where we offer it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for 2 hours in the morning, and then they have a break, and then 2 hours in the afternoon. And so that way a student also can have an option if they come back early, they could take that course. And a lot of times we'll do overrides to be able to let them get in the course, and we'll monitor them. And as long as they've passed the course with a C or better, we let them remain in the next subsequent course to kind of get the chance that they can make it and keep progressing through their coursework if they're in the sciences. So again, the BMS 100 and 101 is more for the kind of the general education person that is that it really doesn't have an interest that much in going on to take another life science course, but is trying to get their general education completed and wants to have more of a human focused life sciences. We will focus on all the number of the aspects that I'll give you in just a second that we do in the BMS 110, 111 for more the STEM majors, or those that are in even social and behavioral sciences that want to take more life sciences courses. But we don't go into as much detail in the material. Just like Tina said, one of the major goals of all of our courses is to give a life sciences literacy. There's a group called the Partnership in Undergraduate Life Sciences Education, or PULSE, a national organization that we kind of try and get that basic science literacy for what any citizen should have in both of our courses. Although the one that is the higher number, the 110, 111, we'll do more details so that they're prepared for subsequent courses. So for 100, 101, just kind of give a layout of it. What we're looking at is students coming in with they should come in with a foundation in life sciences that they learned from 10th grade biology. So I have had 3 kids, and I have one that's now in 11th grade. And so I know what they got taught in 10th grade and 10th grade biology. And so then we're just reiterating that again, and then also extending that out. So students start out with kind of learning the scientific method, some basic cell biology, and some basic genetics. But what we found is and we've changed this in the past 4 years, is that we used to go from small molecules up to the organ system and to the human at the end as a whole organism. But we found that the students kind of didn't stick on there as well. So what we actually do is we give a little bit of background, and then we actually jump and go from the organs and organ systems and the stuff you can see more down to the end of the course, going into more the chemistry of life and how urine is formed, and then more cell division and some applications in cancer and stuff. So rather than start out in the harder stuff, we start out in the stuff that they maybe can relate more to, and then move down to how does this actually all happen with the stuff that's in your cells. And then again, it counts for general education. I always like to make sure that that's pointed out, but it does not, it isn't a prerequisite course to get into later BMS courses. So if a student is thinking they want to maybe take anatomy or genetics or something like that, they should probably not take the BMS 100, 101. They should take the BMS 110, 111. Types of students I see, I pulled up kind of a list of the students that we see in the BMS 100, 101. We're seeing students anywhere from, it's pretty popular to see psychology majors, social work, sociology and anthropology majors, criminology. We have quite a large, those in the arts and digital film and TV production, and then the computer science, and then marketing and business. So those seem to be, if they have an interest in the human biology area, and that would be more interesting to them to focus on just life sciences and of human. This is the course for the general education student. Now, kind of one of those things about the setup is there are 4 exams. Roughly a little over 50% of their grade comes from exam, and then the other 50% comes from quizzes, assignments, group work. This is why being in the classroom will be important, because they'll do some group assignments. The quizzes are using Brightspace, and they get multiple attempts to kind of practice the material and the highest score counts. And so a lot of that is to prepare them for the 4 exams that are in the course. It's kind of set up into 4 units, so each exam being a unit. BMS 110, 111, this one is more for students that want to go on to something and maybe in healthcare, or in it some relation to humans. And so the course starts out at the chemistry of life. So it is one of those that you jump in at the molecule level, and we work up from the atom to the molecules to the cells, and then on to the genetics, and then we move into, and that first part is one of the things that I think I want to make sure to point out is in that BMS 110, 111, the first part of the course is all the stuff below, from the cell below. And then the second half of the course goes into the tissues and then the major organ systems. What we do is we cover the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the immune system, digestive system, and renal system, all the systems that kind of tie together with each other to maintain your body's health. And some of the systems we don't go over because it's only 1 semester course, like nervous system, muscle. We found that those are a little bit better retained and better known from high school. A lot of these students usually have an anatomy course. Maybe they've taken 2 biology courses besides 10th grade biology. They usually have taken another biology course besides that 10th grade one before coming into BMS 110, 111. Taking both the lecture and lab are required to go on to other BMS courses, and you need to get a C or better. So that's something I always like to point out, and we pointed out quite a lot in the course, that you need a C or better. A C minus is not going to get you onto the next course. And it is needed to go on to genetics, which is BMS 231, human anatomy, BMS 307, biology of aging, which is a course that's going to start to be offered again in the fall, so that you'll see some gerontology majors also taking BMS 110 versus the BMS 100, 101, because that's the requirement to get into this biology of aging, which they need in their curriculum. And so that's 260 currently, but it's changing to 370, the course number. Once it gets done with Faculty Senate, it's in that spot right now. And then, there's also a BMS 460 biology of HIV and AIDS that sometimes people use as in minors and things, and that requires BMS 110 and not BMS 100. It also Kin 250 requires BMS 110, 111. They don't have a grade requirement. You just have had to take BMS 110, 111. I don't think you have to have the C minus, or you don't have to have the C or better for that one. And also you can get into Bio 235 genetics with BMS 110, 111. Again, it's commonly taken for those that are interested in going into the healthcare professions. We do see some in the majors in animal science, gerontology. If a person is thinking on going to med school and they're in a different major in sociology or in psychology, you'll see sometimes those students taking BMS 110, 111 because they want to go on to take anatomy later on. And I think that is everything I have.
We're going to go ahead and move on. Thank you to Dr. Tiglet Basara from Physics, Astronomy, and Material Science.
All right, I'm just gonna share a slide. That's this slide sort of summarizes what we offer for Gen Ed. Okay, so it's physics, astronomy, and material science. For Gen Ed, we have astronomy and physics. The material science is a graduate level courses. So if we split it up in 2, we look at astronomy first. We have 2 offerings, Astronomy 113 and 115. They're both gen eds. They both count towards the focus on physical sciences. The difference between them is that Astronomy 115 has a lab. So that's a 4-credit-hour course. So we sort of suggest that people who want to take care of the lab portion and they don't want to do any other physics courses, this would be the one to take, Astronomy 115. And also for our majors that or want to emphasize in astronomy, we tell them that 115 is the choice to take because they get some more experience with the equipment. They're both offered fall and spring. Astronomy 113 is also offered in the summer. For 115, it's a seated class with labs. 113 is seated, and we also have online sections, so people can take this online if they wish. And no math required, no, basically, it's gen ed. They learn basic astronomy, so it goes from the local neighborhood of planet, moon, the planets, and so on, all the way to the grand scale of the universe, cosmological ranges in that sense. And so we listed a few groups of students here that this will be relevant to: archaeology, anthropology, education. Of course, it is open to anyone. And astronomy is always a cool topic, as we see it from our public observing nights, where we have a lot of people showing up. So we recommend that anyone takes astronomy. Okay. For the physics classes, we have 4 of them, 100, 101, 123, and 203. They all have labs with them, and the labs are part of the course already. So there's not a separate course that the students have to register for to get the lab. It is already part of the course. So if I go through these 4 one by one, Physics 100 is fall and spring and also offered online. So the labs will also be online for that one. It is a basic level physics. It is a 3-2, meaning that you have 2 contact hours of lab. You learn the basic level, low math level of motion, forces, fluids, electricity, and magnetism. So you learn about the energy and forces and all of these things, and a little bit of how electricity and magnetism works. And we recommend this for the business, education, and archaeology majors, but it is of course open to anyone. Physics 101 is a fall and spring course, and this is for the educators, basically. So this is for the teachers. This is heavily lab focused. It's a 2 and 4. So it's 4 contact hours of lab in Physics 101. And this one really is open only for the education interested people. As far as topics go, it's the same. It's the basic physics, motion, forces, electricity, magnetism, and so on. The other 2, Physics 123 and 203, those are what you would call Physics 1. Physics 123 is Physics 1 for the non-physics majors. So it is for algebra-based physics. It's a 4 credit hours. It has lab, 2 contact hours of lab. It's offered fall, spring, and summer, and it is also offered traditionally and online. And so being physics 1, so this is forces, energy, motion, the general mechanics, fluids, that type of topics. And this is what we suggest STEM majors to take if they are not doing any calculus courses. So if all their math is algebra based, then Physics 123 is what we suggest. So it says here it's sort of relevant also for other groups. This will be the agriculture, business, archaeology. The majority of students taking in this one would be biology majors, chemistry majors, even though we recommend that they take the calculus-based. Most of them take the algebra-based. And then the last one in Physics 203. So this is Physics 1 for the physics majors and for the engineering majors. So this is a required course for them. We recommend that chemistry, biology, and computer science also take this one. We feel it's a better package when it's calculus-based than it is algebra-based. But it is the first semester. So it's, again, motion, energy, forces, mechanics, fluids, and also includes thermodynamics. It's a 5-credit-hour course that meets every day and also has 2 compact hours lab. Physics 123 and 203 are the ones that lead to Physics 124 and 204, which are Physics 2, algebra-based or calculus-based. For all of these, we basically want them to get the scientific literacy for the Physics 1 and Astronomy 115 ones, basically some problem-solving skills, sort of recognize how things work and how to be able to attack or understand or solve problems based on the information that they are given. And I'll look at my timer. It's at 6 minutes and 50 some seconds. So I'm stopping right here.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Basara. Next, we have Elena Metzger from Chemistry and Biochemistry.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will share. Let me come over here. I have a quick slide, just one slide where I will look to show what chemistry has to offer in terms of our 3 courses. So we have when it comes to chemistry, there's 3 options. I want to clarify, and this is probably one of the things that we clarify to students the most because we're so close to biology. We've had instances in which students enroll to the lecture thinking that they are enrolling to a lab. All of our chemistry options
Elena,
are...
we can't see the slide.
Oh. You see it now? Okay. Oh, thank goodness. So all the chemistry options have separate lab and lecture. So if we need to take that, and then it's so cool that I also got to hear Tina talk because one of our lectures actually has 4 credit hours, and with the lab, it would be 5 credit hours. So if we're going off of how many credit hours, that might mislead us when we're comparing chemistry courses to biology, which is usually what students do. One of our options is going to be depending on the depth of chemistry that you want to learn. And I will address it as such, right? So we have Chem 116, and it's a company lab, which will be Chem 117. Chem 116 is a fundamentals of chemistry, and it's 1 semester course only. This is a survey style of chemistry. I would also piggyback from Tina. It's so cool that you went first because it really shows that contrast of how much you learn in Chem 116. We're going to focus a little bit of everything that you will learn in a 2-semester general chemistry course, but we stay at a surface level. It is important to note, though, that Chem 116 does serve as a prerequisite for another chemistry course, which is a Essentials Organic Chemistry class. So if we want our majors, and by me, you, if your program would like your majors to take more than 1 chemistry course, but we don't want them to go into the Gen Chem 1 to Gen Chem 2 sequence, we may want to take this Gen Chem option because it feeds into, it is the prerequisite for Chem 200, 201 and 202, which would be the lecture and the labs together. Oh my goodness. I locked my screen. Then when we go to the next portion is that how do we offer them? So Chem 116, the lecture is offered the spring and the fall semesters, and there is always an online option and a seated option. So I focused on where, of course, all of them are offered seated, but I wanted to highlight when are they offered online. Chem 116 can be completed online in the summer. However, the lab component is only offered in person. So you can have an in-person lab in the summer. The reason for this is because we do have to make sure that the students have the lab skills to potentially complete Chem 201, which is the essentials organic chemistry. In an online lab, we wouldn't be able to guarantee that the students are prepared for a laboratory setting. So it presents that challenge that if you want your students to only complete this Chem 116 as an gen ed, then if they're hoping to complete the online lab, there is not that option. So if we're advising a student who is primarily completing all of their gen eds online, Chem 116 wouldn't be the option that I would recommend. Because we don't have that flexibility to ensure that they can take the lab component if they need it. Now, the thing about physical sciences in gen ed is that you can complete, you only need one lab. So what often we have is that students take some of the geology, which Toby is going to talk about, courses, which fulfills their physical sciences need with that lab, and then come and take chemistry lecture only. Math-wise, I wanted to kind of mention math prerequisite. Our Chem 116, actually all of our chemistry courses do not have a specific, 100 level. Chem 116 can accept the students who take in Math 101, an app, right? So if they're taking math, they're able to enroll into that Chem 116. Let's talk about Chem 160. Chem 160 is our Gen Chem 1. The thing about Gen Chem 1 is that we must prepare students for Chem 170, which is part 2 of this class. And because of that, we're going to go in depth quite a bit in order to ensure that there is that conceptual foundation in order to build up students. And we're constantly mentioning, okay, so when you learn this in Gen Chem 2. Now, the thing about Gen Chem 1 is that we do cater to students who are in a wide range, those that need this just as gen ed, but also those who are science majors. And because of that, I would say that the level of challenge and demand can be high because of who we need to teach, right? So if your advisees only need to take this Gen Chem to meet their gen ed prerequisite, I would not advise them to Chem 160. However, what if they change their mind later on and they want to actually switch their major into a science major? One can only dream. But what if that's the case, right? So if that's the case, and let's say that we take the counterpart, which is 107, it won't serve as a prerequisite for most courses. So I am the kind of advisor that likes to keep options open. And if I want students to keep their options open and they are actually interested in a science major, but they're not sure, and they're just kind of building up that portion, either Chem 116 or Chem 160 would be the choices that I would do, because yes, it satisfies gen ed, but it also gives them options should they want to pursue more chemistry courses later on. Chem 160 is offered in the spring and the fall as a seated course, and it is offered in the summer online only. The lab component is not offered online, so you have to make time to budget coming to campus in the summer if you're choosing to take the lecture. The cool thing is that because lab is separate, we have students who will complete the online lab, the online lecture in the summer, and then they enroll for the lab in the fall. Then now we have Chem 107, and this is my baby because I teach the online section of Chem 107. This has been catered as a chemistry on the go, focused on, we're going to have a topic first. So we talk about nutrition, we talk about climate and environmental topics, we talk about medicine, we talk about digestion and foods, we talk about plastics. So we have a major topic that is relevant to citizens. The name of this class is called Chemistry for the Citizen. And then we teach enough chemistry to understand the topic. For example, if we talk about air quality allows us to learn about metals and non-metals, but instead of learning all of the compounds that are made with some metals and non-metals, or non-metals and non-metals, we can focus on these specific molecules that are relevant to air quality with photochemical smog. So we can learn, I would say it's a little bit of that Chem 116. However, we narrow and laser focus on the substances that are relevant to the specific topic at hand. Chem 107 offers a variety of formats. So we can offer it it's offered in the spring, in the fall, and in the summer. And there is always an online section or a seated section. It has Chem 108, and this is the only online lab that the chemistry department offers. So if you want a student who needs the gen ed only, and they are wanting to complete both lecture and lab online, Chem 107 is the way to go. The online lab uses a format of either we have a couple of animations that students get to drag and drop and manipulate and collect data from it, or they're going to be watching a video and collecting data. As you notice, this is hands-off approach. And this is why we only offer this online lab as chemists 3 department. We do believe that if a student is taking an online component, they are to develop the hands-on approach, especially for any of the courses that is feeding into another lab. So if my students need to develop the actual kinesiology portion of handling devices, because we want them to collect data and develop that, I would say, the discipline of how I carry out a lab procedure to collect data, then Chem 108 is not the option to go. However, what we do focus is on helping students analyze and observe, record observations, and make connections between the concepts and the real world. So in this online lab, we're able to bring in a little bit more of the real world because we get to do things virtually. So we have a climate change lab, and because the person who made the lab, aka me, can handle and collect data because of my skills, we're able to bring a little bit of this elevated style of labs that don't require students to have an advanced lab skills. However, what we do get to do is to bring in some of these data and observations to make it more real and connected. So maybe I'm pitching too much on this Chem 108, but I do love it, and those are our options.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And last but not least, we have Dr. Toby Dogweiler from School of Earth, Environment, and Sustainability.
All right. Can you see the slide? Okay. I made this available to Kim so she could share it if she wanted to, or if anybody wanted it, you can ask her for it or ask me. And I included a couple slides that are just background about the 4 different majors we offer in the School of Earth, Environment, and Sustainability. Typical types of students that like our majors, and some common themes throughout our program. So that's there in case you're advising a student to express some interest in our minors or certificates or a double major, maybe. Okay, so for our courses, first of all, some of you probably know we renamed and renumbered our intro geology and geography courses. So today's a good chance for me to go over those new numbers and new names with you. First of all, who would take these courses? I'm going to start with our physical science geology courses. I sort of put this under the theme of volcanoes and earthquakes and tsunamis. Oh my. So this is all the cool, bad stuff that can happen on Earth. So the first course is Geology 113, Earth, the Instruction Manual. This is what the curious citizen needs to know about how the Earth works. Geology 114, Earth, the Survival Guide. This is how the Earth's environment is out to get you and what you can do about it. So we're trying to have a little fun with these new names and course titles. make it a little more relevant to the students than our old names of principles of geology and environmental geology. Both of those are lecture courses now, 3-credit lecture courses, and they can be combined with GLG 116, which is Earth, the Hands-On Adventure, which is the laboratory section. That can also be combined with 115, which I'll talk about in a moment. But first, let's talk about the geography, physical science courses. So the first one's meteorology. So the lecture portion of that is GRY 137, meteorology, understanding weather and climate. And then that can be paired with GRY 138 if a student wants the lab. I think meteorology speaks for itself, but this is, you're going to learn about the daily weather patterns, how to interpret the forecast that you see on TV or the internet. And the long term, we also get into some climate change topics. So the long-term climate change trends that influence everything from what we're going to wear today to where we should or shouldn't build our houses. We used to have a course called physical geography. That's been changed to GRY 145, Earth's Natural Environment. The lab that goes with that is GRY 146, the laboratory. I think that this is a great course for a student who's maybe coming from the humanities or the social sciences, maybe is a little science phobic. This explores how the natural systems of the earth works, but because this is being taught from a geographical perspective, and geography is really the intersection of the physical sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities. That's what geography does, is bring those things together. It looks at the scientific principles from a very human and cultural centered perspective. So it's not only for those students. I think there's lots of students who might like this perspective on the physical sciences, but specifically for some of those students who might be like, I got to take my science requirement. What's the least bad option? This might be one to steer them towards, if they've got that perspective. We also offer a life science gen ed course called GLG 115, Life of the Past. This is essentially introductory paleontology. It covers things like dinosaurs and a lot of other types of critters, but dinosaurs are the headline grabbers there. It goes into past ecosystems and climates and how those environments have driven evolution and changes in those ecosystems over geologic time periods. So if a student really likes dinosaurs, fossils, and cataclysmic life-destroying asteroids, this is the course for them. And it can also be combined with that same geology lab course that 113 and 114 could be combined with if they need the gen ed lab science requirement. So to summarize that, we've got GLG 113 and 14 are physical science, 115 is life science, and then 116 can be combined with any of the above. So what we've done here, like other programs have, is we've split our lectures from our labs. So that means that the labs, which I've listed here, can be combined with the accompanying lecture course. I think big advantage of that is if a student takes the lecture and they're like, I love this, I like this, they can take the lab in another semester, a subsequent semester, to fulfill the gen ed requirement, or if they decide to do a major, minor, or certificate program that requires that lab, it's easy to go back and pick it up in a different semester. Also, we see more and more transfer students that might come in with a lecture course, but they need the lab. They don't have that yet. They've transferred early, they don't have their AA degree, and they want to pick up the lab, or they come and they only had the lecture course, but now they want to do a certificate, minor or major. This is a good example of why this is good, that these are split, the labs and the lectures. Modalities, we have a mix right now. GLG 113 and GRY 145 and the 146 labs are only seated. The meteorology course has seated and online options most semesters, and 114, which is what used to be environmental geology, now Earth, the survival guide, and 115, which is the life of the past. Those both have online and seated options. So good mix there. And I think we'll be offering more online versions of courses, sections, plus online versions of some of the ones that are only seated in the future. Coursework expectations, as with most of the science courses, there are reading and homework assignments, quizzes, and exams associated with the lecture. And then the labs are very hands-on. In-class activities might be quizzes or practical exams to sort of reinforce what's being learned in the lab. And just to reiterate something that Tina said, we have a policy in our department. You have to come to lab. We're not going to give you lab gen ed credit if you don't attend. So more than 2 absences and you fail the lab. Even if you did all the work and turned everything in, if you weren't there doing the hands-on activities, you don't get the lab credit for gen ed. Sorry, too bad. Who might find these courses relevant? Well, anybody who lives on Earth probably could benefit from knowing a little more about how the Earth works and the processes that shape it. A practical example of that is if you're going to be a homeowner in Springfield, there are sinkholes, there are floodplains, there are lots of things that we talk about in these courses that you need to be knowledgeable about and aware of to make good decisions when buying homes. And because only probably 3 to 5% of the students taking our courses ever major in these things, these courses really are designed for the average citizen, science for all. So it's really, these courses are really come from a perspective of a non-science major. I've got here I won't read these because I'm probably short on time, but I went a little more in depth about who might want to take which of these courses. If a student comes to you and says, I don't know which one of these to take, they all sound great, or I don't know which one of these to take, they all sound horrible, but I got to take one. Here's some advice maybe on how they might choose. Also, as I said, I made this, Kim, you can get this PowerPoint from Kim Rai, and this is sort of where I would direct people maybe from the social sciences, humanities, liberal arts, or business majors, or agricultural sciences into some of these. Or, it's the GLG 115, our Life of the Past is a life science option. And my daughter said, biology is kind of icky. I don't want to do that. She ended up taking GLG 115, Life of the Past. I guess once it's solidified into a fossil, it's a little less icky from her perspective. So there is that too. And then I'm going to end with our certificate options, all of which may require one or more of these intro courses for students coming from other majors who want to take more of these things. And that's it. I hope I kept close to my 7 minutes.
You are good. So thank you so much, everybody, for presenting today. I don't think we'll have quite enough time for questions, but of course you can always reach out if you do ever have any questions. I do want to thank all of the presenters for presenting today and supporting the advising community, for everybody participating today and listening in to better equip the advising when meeting with students. So thank you all for attending. I'm going to pass this on to Ross if he has any last minute comments.
Yeah, well, again, thank you to the presenters. Kim, thank you for facilitating the advisor forum and getting everything organized for it. Again, I'm so glad so many of you were able to join in today. Remember, this session has been recorded and will be posted on the YouTube advising channel. One final thing I want to mention is I misspoke earlier in the intro, and I said that the Core 42 and U, the redo, is an advisor forum on Zoom. It is not. It is a seated advisor forum in Plaster Student Union, room 313. So that is an in-person advisor forum on Thursday, March 13th. Again, thank you everyone for being here. I hope to see everyone next Monday at the Master Advisor Reception. Take care.